Kia koutou katoa, ko Jennifer Lay Aho. Welcome to the session hosted by Adult and Community Education Aotearoa. So today I'd like to offer a karakia for the start of our session today. You can see the words in Te Reo Māori in English. Feel free to stay up in your own house, wherever you are, your own office, your own space around the Motu. Manawa mai te Māori I nuku, manawa mai te Māori rangi. Ko te Māori tai au te Māori kitoa. Ka pakaru mai te kō, tau mai te Māori, feel free to join in. Taumihe, kuie, tai e. Ko waio, for Jennifer Lay Aho, and here's a little bit about me. I'm based here in Kotahi. In South Island, where it's a beautiful day today. I hope it's a lovely day where you are. I have the privilege of working as the ACE Teaching Standards Advisor, and that's what I'll be drawing on today.
This meeting is being recorded.
Yep, it is. I just did that. The meeting's being recorded. I have a background of working with adults in various sectors. Importantly, I learned a lot at the prisons here in Christchurch and studied at the University of Canterbury and have worked there and at ARA Institute of Technology. And currently I'm the Southern Manager of Ako Aotearoa. So the ACE teaching standards can be found on the ACE Aotearoa website. Let me or Viv know if you want more details. But what I like to do with the ACE teaching standards is ensure that I'm meeting them and being the best tutor that I can be. So I look at the 17 indicators there and just check in to ensure that I'm keeping to the guidelines. And so today's session is very much based on three of the teaching standards, the indicators, three indicators of the standard. And you can see them there in front of you, the ones that I've based the session on. And the session is this. Here's our kaupapa for today. So you can see already we've covered off whakapanaungatanga. We'll look in detail at some learner-centred teaching. Well, when I say detail, it's actually as much as I can fit in a very small time, but I hope that it will start a conversation for you because you have an opportunity towards the end to talk about learner-centred teaching for you, what that looks like. I'll talk briefly about what it is, the principles and approach. I've got some really cool concepts from Te Ao Māori on learner-centred teaching to share with you. There'll be a brief reflection activity and brief evaluation activity as well. So please ask any questions in the chat and we'll move on. So here's a graphic I found, and excuse me if I fluctuate between the American spelling incentive and the New Zealand spelling incentive throughout the session. So this graphic is inviting us to consider a teacher-centred approach or a student-centred approach. So just if you wouldn't mind just opening your mic and please feel free to tell me which one do you think is better for you. So open your mic and just say it loud and clear. Which one is better for you?
Student.
Yep, thanks, Irene.
Student.
Student, thank you, Lilia.
Student.
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 Yeah, love the student. Lovely.
Learner.
Great. Yeah, learner. Learner, student. Yeah, this is talking student in this graphic, isn't it? Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, and of course, this connects strongly to the ideas around teaching adults and the theory around teaching adults. So some of you will have heard of the term andragogy, the art and science of teaching adults, which was introduced to the world by Malcolm Knowles from North America back in the 60s. And it does underpin the theory that drives how we teach as adults. So in the graphic there you see the concept of andragogy, where the learner is very clearly in the centre, as opposed to pedagogy, which is focused on the content. So sometimes this graphic is a pedagogy, sometimes also describes more of a teacher-focused teacher-led approach. But this particular graphic is inviting us to see the difference there just from a point of view of content and learning. So why I think learner-centered teaching, learner-centered learning and is so important is it ties very well to our key concept of how adults teach, and that's through an andragogical approach. Okay, so here's a definition of learner-centered teaching, what it is. And as many of you will be aware already, it's about engaging the learner in the process of learning and enabling them to reflect on what they're learning and how they're learning it. And so for many of you, that won't be new because you will already be doing that in your lessons. You will be working with a learner-centered approach. So thanks for joining, because even though perhaps some of you aren't learning new things, it's probably reinforcing to you the importance of why you do what you do. And again, here's some more information around learner-centered teaching, what it does do. So it's reminding us about the importance of learner-centered teaching, and when we teach in a learner-centered way, that's when our learners succeed. It's a simple thing, but again, sadly, many adult educators forget and are focused on content-centered or teacher-centered learning. It's really important about teaching the learner that it's about their basic skills, when they know what they're learning, when they're interested in the learning, and when they have some agency to decide what it is that they want to learn and how they want to learn it. Here's a model here that I have found around learner-centered teaching. So this model here, getting back to our model about learner-centered teaching, of course places the learner in the middle. And again, none of this will be particularly new to you, but as I said, I'm attracted to simple models that just remind me, yes, that's what it's about. Let's give our learner the accountability for their own learning. Help them inquire, help them discuss, and the importance of collaboration, the importance of some creation in the learning, and always give them opportunity to reflect on their learning. What has that been meant for them? What have they learned? What are they taking away? Again, probably nothing new, but just reinforcement for some of you there. So just good, I like to be reminded and just check in for myself. Yeah, that's what I do when I plan sessions. That's what I do when I work with my learner, regardless of whether it's a one-to-one session or a group session. Here's another model here, and these models, as I said, the reference to them are in the references. So this one is a little bit more complex, but again, I like the fact that it's telling and inviting us, it's using the word student here, but it is inviting us to think about that's the centre of everything is around learner-centered teaching, the learner, beg your pardon. And again, reasonably straightforward and not new in that in the ACE sector, this is what we focus on so importantly. The positive relationships we have with our learners, ensuring that their key needs are being met at all times, that they feel like they are noticed, they feel seen. The educator, the tutor, the kaiako who works with them knows who they are, knows a little bit about them. Then we move on down to ownership and agency, that the learner feels that they have some control over the learning or some input into the learning. It's not about just what the teacher, the kaiako, the educator said. It's them having a chance to share their passions, to share what's important to them, and bring that into the session. As Knowles identified, real world relevance is important and key for the learner. So it's about what is useful for the learner at a given time and what connects to real world for the learner at that time. In other words, learning that's relevant for them right now, not learning that they may need in 20 years' time. This is an interesting one here, the idea around competency-based learning here in this place, in this space here. So that's an opportunity to really show that learners have learnt and how they've learnt. So instead of, I guess, letting learners struggle on, it means let's remember our assessment processes and ensure that there's some way that they can share with us along the journey that they've learnt what it is they need to learn. And the last of these here is the idea of anytime, anywhere. And some of you will be able to do that more than others. I know some organisations, English Language Partners, LIP Te Aotearoa, and others too, but I have had experience with those two myself. Oh, and Pathways Awaroa. All of those providers will be providing, you're doing your best to meet the learner where they need to be. So you'll be making sure that you know there's a time that works, there's a place that works for that particular learner. So that's our model there, about 7 principles. So we'll just have a few more slides and then an opportunity for you to think about what do you do in your practice and share that too. Here's a new activity for me. I always like to try and do something new myself when I'm teaching online, and I have some information here that I would like your input into. So as you can see on the left of your screen is the teacher-centered approach, and on the right is the learner-centered approach, except it's actually invisible at this stage. There's nothing there. So what I'm interested in is you answering these. I'm sure you'll know what the answers will be, but I'm interested in inviting you to give me a few responses here. So this work is taken from an Ako Aotearoa contractor. His name is Graham Smith. And I've got some more information to share with you from Graham Smith as well, shortly, and details of how to get this information. So let's just do the first one together. In a teacher-centered approach, the focus is on the teacher. Who's the expert? Let's have a look at a learner-centered approach. In a learner-centered approach, it's a focus on the teacher, but it's importantly the learners. So it isn't just the learners here, it's the learners and the teacher. So that's what's going to slide in, comment like that. So let's have a go. Who would like to answer the next one? The focus is on what the teacher knows about the skills or content. What do you think the answer is here? Is anyone happy to share? And learner-centered, what will the focus be on?
I think for me, it's that the focus would be on what the learner wants to learn.
Thank you. Was that you, Natasha? Was it? Yes.
Anna.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I couldn't see Anna. Thank you. Oh, there you are, Anna. Yes, I see you now. Thank you, Anna. Yeah. So what the learner wants to use and using their skills or content. Thank you, Anna. It's brave, I know. Well,
In the chat, Christina's noted that building on what the learner already knows, and Ebony, the learners decide, or learners decides.
exactly. Yes. Building on. I love that, Christina. And Ebony, thank you. What the learner knows. That's great. Thank you. Let's have a look at teacher-centered, the third one there. So the teacher talks, the learners listen. It's a little bit what I'm doing here, sadly. But learner-centered, what would that look like? What would learner-centered look like? And in that particular category. Anyone like to offer anything? Yeah. So Glosan, refining your teaching methods after feedback from learners. Yeah. And Janet, thanks. Yeah, prior knowledge. Great that you mentioned prior knowledge. So important. And building on that. More of a conversation with prompts and info from the tutor. Great. Thanks, Janet, again. And Christina. discussion, conversation, peers, discuss. Nice, nice. Yeah. So, according to Graham's idea, yeah, it's the teacher models, and you've said it there. Learners interact with teacher and each other. So lots of discussion, lots of feedback, lots of conversation. Just what you've said. Okay, just a few more of these. Thanks so much for your participation. I can see your favour in writing than speaking, but if anyone wants to say so, great. Our next one is learners work alone in a teacher-centred approach. How do you think they learn in a learner-centred approach? Group and collaborative learning. Yeah, totally, Christina. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? From the tutor and or their peers. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, thanks, Jenna. Let's have a look. Yeah, there we go. Work in pairs, groups, or alone, depending on the task. Yeah, and it does sound, straightforward. But again, lots of tutors don't encourage pair work or work on their own. So it's I think these are useful reminders to us all. Thank you, Lydia and Fiona. Learners working together, working collaboratively. Fantastic. Okay, so we've got four more. So the next one, in the teacher-centered world, the teacher monitors and corrects. So that's corrects the work. That's how they assess. What do you think is happening in the learner-centered world? How different is it? Yeah, nice, nice, nice. Christina, learners reflect, peers discuss. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Any other views about what's going on in a learner-centered world? The teacher's monitoring and they're correcting, but in the learner-centered world, it's all about the learner, so they get a chance to reflect, they get a chance to discuss. What else do they get a chance to do? Anything else? Oh, happy with Christina's response. Okay. Yeah. Again, they work in pairs or alone, depending on the task. Right. Hopefully that's the right answer. Just double checking. It's the same as the one before. Just double, yeah, I may need to check on that one. It could be the same again, but I may have repeated it. I'm sorry. I'll need to double check and send the correct slide to you. But however, yeah, because I think actually I have made a mistake now looking at that. So what it will be really referring to is that the learner is involved in the assessment. The learner gets to self-assess, and the learner, instead of the teacher monitoring and correcting, will be working together with the teacher to assess their work. So there's probably a really nice quick sentence that I didn't put in there. My apologies. Okay, let's move on very quickly. She says getting away from that. Okay, teacher chooses topic. That teacher-centered world. What happens in a learner-centered world, do you think? I think it's straightforward, isn't it? The tutor. Oh no, there it is. There. Whoops. Ah, that was the last answer, wasn't it? Oh goodness, sorry. Tutor provides feedback or corrections as questions come up. So I would prefer that the learner was more involved, but according to Graham's idea and research on learner-centered, it's a work together. So this is the answer for the next one. Yeah, instead of the teacher choosing the topics, the learners have some choice of topics. Okay, two more to go, and Janet has written, sometimes it's very dependent on the program as much as possible, learners' interest and and can drive and goals drive the program. That's totally correct with learner centered. So if in a teacher centered world, the teacher evaluates the student learning, what happens in a learner centered world? Yeah, self-evaluation, nice. Nice. Teacher set framework, students' choice, specific area of interest. Thanks, Lilia, Kitiona, and Christina again. And with the research from Graham, again, it's about the learner. They evaluate their own learning. And the tutor does as well. But as Christina says, the teacher sets the framework and then the learner choice and specific area of interest, is, they get to choose. Okay, and then the last one here, the learning environment, usually a classroom, is quiet in a teacher-centered world. Is it different in a learner-centered world? How different is it? How different is it, do you think? Yeah. Nice. Lilia and Kiriona. It's vibrant, engaging, fun, all about the learner. Beautiful, beautiful. I love that. Dynamic and active environment. Fantastic, Christina, too. Lovely. You have given me some great answers there. And according to Graham's research, that a learning environment is often noisy and busy, just like we said. Fantastic. So there are the characteristics of both, and apologies for the double up in the middle, but you'll get a sense there of the difference between the two. So thanks for your patience with that. So just to reinforce what learner-centered learning is. So again, as many of you said, oh, Viv, sorry, Viv.
Lauren said, this is quite interesting. I thought there would be more inquiry around learner curiosities and building from there.
True. Yeah. You mean on that last slide? Yeah. Yeah, some of those answers I think I could look at sort of adding a bit to as well. But sometimes when we look at research, it's useful to think, it's not quite right for me. So that's why I try and give you various perspectives. And also, it's good that you're questioning too. Thank you, Lauren. Yeah. So just one final summary slide here before we look at Te Ao Māori. And after that, then you'll have a chance to talk yourself, because I know it's a bit of listening for you. Sorry. As we've said earlier, it's prioritising the learner, placing them at the centre of the learning experience. And as you can see, sometimes it's called student-centred learning. But again, it's about the learner having control of the learning journey. And that way we get that really rich engagement and better outcome. It's simple, really, as I said, but oftentimes people forget it is about the learner. And our responsibility to the parent is to guide and facilitate the learning so that the learner, as an adult, has agency in their own learning. They can take responsibility for their own learning. So what I have now is 12 concepts from Te Ao Māori for learner-centred teaching. So these concepts have come from the work of Graham Smith, and he has kindly given us access to his work. Usually you need to pay for his work, but when I messaged him to say that I was utilising his work today, he has given you access to a free download. So Graham did a lot of research for the New Zealand Certificate of Adult Literacy and Numeracy Educator Vocational a long time ago, and this is some of the research that he came up with. And he's, as I said there, if you use that code, you will get all of the information about this last slide for you. So, as I said, here are the various concepts that Graham feels helps us to be more learner-centred. Some of these words you'll be familiar with, some of them perhaps you haven't seen before. And Viv, actually, if you have you to also add in at times here, I'll just briefly go through these. So we'll start with tuatanga tēnā. So that model is based on a person with experience sharing with a person with less experience. So it can be a good way of pairing up people in your teaching sessions. Second one, the concept of ako is the idea that as for myself as an educator, I'm learning just as much as I'm teaching. The third one is about whakapapa, and so that's drawing on our background, our heritage, where we've grown up, and the people, the connections that we have. Okay, actually, we'll come back to this. What I'd like you to do now, and Vivian's going to help you with this, is you'll have an opportunity to break out now into rooms to talk about your experience with learner-centered teaching and what difference it's made to your teaching. So feel free to talk about anything about learner-centered teaching. I won't set it, but that was an example of what you could talk about, how it's worked for you and what you do. So Viv is kindly going to put you into breakout rooms, and you'll have an opportunity now with 4 other people in your room or 5 other people in your room, talk for 8 minutes. Okay, so you have 8 minutes. So hopefully you'll all get a chance to share your experience of learner-centered teaching. Thanks, Viv. Thanks if everyone would move into their rooms, please. All right, welcome back. Thank you. I hope you all had a chance to have a kōrero with each other about the importance for you today of learner-centered teaching. Shortly there'll be an opportunity for questions, but I realised there was one piece I hadn't finished off for you. So don't forget to go to Graham's site and access this if you'd like to, because it will give you more information than I'm giving you. Mine is purely just the minimum amount of information of the concept. So we've talked about the top line. The second line, mana atua, gives us a focus on spiritual, or invites us to think about a spiritual well-being component for learner-centered teaching. The second one, mana ao turoa, is around encouraging learning from the environment. So that's our natural world, getting a sense of that with our learner-centered teaching. Again, mana whenua is encouraging us to think about further about power and authority. I think Graham explains that best there for the learner. And mana tangata, as you might guess, there is around the importance, the valuing of people. So more focus on people there in that concept. The last line, mana reo, is around the valuing of te reo Māori, so the use of that throughout learner-centered teaching. The second one you'll have heard there, second line at the bottom, tino rangotiratanga, more approaches that are self-determining for the learner and their sessions. And the next one, kōrero titiro whakarongo, so a chance to talk, to look, to listen, and to make sure that those components are evident within your Te Ao Māori learner-centered teaching. And the last one is the idea of guardianship under kaitiaki tanga. So my apologies that I haven't given them due respect and time in this session, but this is really an introduction time for you to learner-centered teaching. And I'm hopeful that some of you might have the chance to look and see, go to Graham's work and find more information there yourself. So do that. There is a chance now, of course, for questions, for thoughts, your own thoughts, and for your reflections. We're then going to move on to a reflection activity. If there are no partai, no questions today. As I said, the references will be there for you to look. So considering our session today, where we've looked at the principles of learner-centered teaching, we've looked at the different approaches. You've had a few models there today to look at, and importantly, some ideas around Te Ao Māori today for learner-centered teaching. So thinking about your own teaching, so here's a very sort of straightforward reflection activity where I invite you to think about the things that you'll start doing, that you'll stop doing, and that you'll continue to doing in your teaching. So there's been some great suggestions in the chat today, and feel free to write in the chat some things that you'll start, stop, or continue doing. So this is a good reflection framework for us to think back and think which bits in the 1 hour session really helped me from the point of view of what I'll continue to do in the way that I teach. Was it the concept of andragogy that we talked about? Was it the concept of some of the Te Ao Māori ones that you thought were useful for you? Was it some of the models as well? So thinking over the session, what are the things that have stood out for you? Anyone happy to share verbally or share in the chat today? Some things you'll do or not do. Maybe there's something you'll stop doing.
This framework looks familiar. We do provide this to our learners to give us immediate feedback once we complete the whole week's. We call it an extended learning module where we teach them clinical skills before they start going to hospitals and placements.
Lovely. Thanks, Russell.
Start, stop, continue. So they tell us which part of the Elm Week teaching we have to continue or stop. It's not always an easy pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we work on it. Yeah, but it's a good
That's good.
evaluation tool.
Yeah, so you'll be well used to it for you to do today. I mean, it is, I know there may not have been new material today, but sometimes just as you've done, and thank you for those of you who've joined us online and will join later by looking at the video. Sometimes it's great to just be reminded of the things that we're doing and think about, oh, I'm going to start doing that when I teach next time. So this is our karakia of whakamutere. Me karakia tātou. Ko mutu a mātou mahi, mō tēnei wā, manakitia mai mātou katoa, o mātou hoa, o mātou whānau, ao ki te rangi. Peace to you all at this time. May you have a great weekend for Easter season coming up as well. There are our references today that I've utilised, so feel free to use those and find out more information as well. See the ACE teaching standards at the top there, and importantly, Graham's work too.